Hey, this is Natasha Nurse, and I'm really excited to be speaking with the one and only Lucinda Cross. She is known as the Chief Activator. She's the voice of this generation. So, as the CEO of Activate Worldwide and founder of Activate Your Life 5013C, Lucinda is a TEDx speaker and accomplished best-selling author with 5 self-published books under her name. She's the recipient of the Lifetime Achievement Award from former President Barack Obama. She's a highly sought after international speaker and corporate coach, crisscrossing the country weekly, delivering her high impact, anticipated words of wisdom, self discovery, and strategy. Lucinda's story is very compelling. It's one of triumph and overcoming odds to regain her rightful place in life. It's a story of using all of her life experiences to inspire many thousands of people. She's packed audiences and she sold out seats. Men and women always leave her experience feeling inspired, encouraged, and ready to activate. How are you, Lucinda?
Woo! What a bio. That sounds good. I'm well.
Yes.
I want to meet her. Who's that girl? No.
Yes. Hello, Queen. How are you doing?
Come through. Cue the music right now.
I know.
No. We are crazy.
You are incredible. I mean, that's essentially my first question. How did you become the woman you are today?
Oh my gosh, was just pushing past adversities and not allowing myself to make any excuses about anything. Anything. Yeah.
Okay. And how did you know you wanted to get into like the space of wanting to motivate others and showing other people how they can live a more meaningful, purposeful, activated life?
Well, it's a fulfilling industry. It's also lucrative, but from my mentor, linking up and linking up with my mentor, watching how when I first started in business. Now I have a different mentor. He's like, oh gosh, he's like the chair of my company. But linking up with my first mentor and watching him travel from state to state, international, encouraging others and changing lives, and watching how that impact was, and then watching how he helped to cultivate some of the gifts and talents and skills that I also possess, and not push me, but showed me how it's possible to not only change your own life, but help to change others by encouraging them. And my way of doing it is through activation. His way of doing it was through entrepreneurship, small business. That's what he focused on. Writing was a big piece for him. He believed everybody should have a book. He doesn't care what it's about. Write a book about something. Dog biscuits, pencils, write a book, because it's liberating, and it also pushes you to kind of step out of your shell. Mine is on activation. It's time for you to be seen and heard.
And why is activation so important? I mean, I think to most people or most business owners, I think that's an obvious concept, but break that out for people.
Activation is important because it's, to me, the opposite of procrastination. And we live in a society where the percentage of procrastination is extremely high, because people are now pretty much lazy. They have access to everything. So, it's an app for that. Oh, you need to eat? There's an app for that. You need to think? There's an app for that. So activation is important because it also pushes you to think beyond the app for that and show up and put in some sweat equity. And that's what, for me, activation is about, is where's the sweat equity? Where's the, turning your prayers into, and bringing them into manifestation. Not just talking about it, but really walking the walk. There's a lot of talkers out there.
Okay. And what's like the first step that one would take to try to be more activated in their goals and their life?
Decluttering. Find something to declutter. Your phone, your car, your closet, your computer, your email list, your message. decluttering does something for the brain, for the mind. It helps you to get clear, and it helps you to look at distractions that you've been allowing to take up mental real estate. And so decluttering will be the first step in terms of activation. It helps you
Mm,
to get clarity.
okay. When working with the people that you work with, do you feel like women need this conversation and this messaging more than men, or is it across the board the same?
I definitely think women need this conversation more than men because women are master multitaskers,
Mm-hmm.
queens of doing 50 million things and, not breaking a sweat, but they're ready to just, snap at any moment mentally. So women definitely need this, this more than men, in my opinion. Men will make a move and then they may question later. They don't so much ask for permission.
Mm-hmm.
Women, we get in the habit of asking for permission and apologizing.
Okay. And how has being a woman and being a person of color affected your activation journey and becoming, a successful writer, speaker, motivator, author, all of that?
Uh, you know, I, I really don't know where to, because there's so much that I want to cover with that one question.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Being a Black woman, for me, it was challenging because my credentials, my credibility, it appeared to always be questioned, versus someone else who was in my same lane probably doing less, providing less results. Um, there would be a follow through. It's more of a celebration for someone else in my industry of a different nationality. But for me as a Black woman coming out, it was, oh, she's defying the odds. Oh, she's a rebel. Oh, she's so, now I see a different shift. But when we as Black women, and when I say that, I'm even talking about myself, really quote unquote bossed up, it was at the sake of, saying, hey, I don't have to be politically correct or sound right. There was other nationalities, white women, all different nationalities. They had no problem with saying, oh, I'm a bad, badass me. They didn't have no problem putting that on their book. But when it came
Mm-hmm.
to a Black woman, you put that on your book. There was plenty of books and copy, articles and sales copy that was out there that where other nationalities would embrace it. But I felt as a Black woman, I still had to walk on eggshells. I mean, not any longer, but when I first got into the game around 2006, that was the case.
Gotcha. Okay. And like, how did you deal with that challenge of having to kind of work harder and prove that you should and are worthy of having a seat at the table and also being able to have the message that you have?
I had to create my own seat. I had to create my own table,
Mm.
um, and bring my own seats to the table. I had to create that table. The doors weren't opening as I thought they should. And so instead of complaining about it and making excuses on why my business wasn't thriving, I had to create a platform for myself and be an advocate for where's the underdogs at? Where's the best kept secrets?
Mm.
Here's a place for you. Here's a platform for us to collaborate, to connect, to share
Mhm.
within this circle. And that's how I did it. I created my own platform.
I love it.
I didn't
Okay.
wait for someone to hire me, to contract me to be a speaker. I hired myself as my first keynote. I hired myself as my first workshop leader. I contracted myself first, became became a client to myself first, and
Mm.
that put me in a position to not have to ask for permission or feel like I was being left out, and not included. Inclusion starts with yourself.
I love it. Absolutely. Okay. And that leads us perfectly to the conversation of why we are speaking today. And anyone listening can hear that you are clearly a sister on fire. And just to give you more context, the the whole movement really started with a play started by Marcia McNair and Anissa Moore, and formerly known as Diary of a Mad Black Feminist, now is Sisters on Fire,
I love
and
it.
it's really it's about, the Black woman experience in America, whether it's her challenges in the workplace, her challenges with other sisters, her challenges with a relationship, and really the human experience of what women are going through when they're trying to have a voice in this world. And we wanted to have the conversation continuous and keep the fire blazing between productions. We had very successful sold out performances last year, and we are keeping the conversation by featuring women like yourself so that we can hear your story, that we can hear what made you who you are, what made you get through those tough days and through those battles that you had to face. And so I guess my next question would be, when you hear the term sister on fire, how would you define it?
Sister on fire, someone who is unapologetic about who they are, someone who's not making excuses about what they need to do, someone
Mm-hmm.
who looks at their past um, from a place of power and not pity. I mean, Ava DuVernay, God, I just
Mm-hmm.
love her. I love everything about her. A girl from Compton. And come on, she's making Disney movies. That's unapologetic. That's working your craft and making that, and showing how that activation is looking. Like, she's just not asking for permission, and I love it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So now in your life, who were women that lived up to that definition?
Lived, to a certain extent, I would have to say my mother, but she still sought out approval and validation. I would
Mm-hmm.
have to say my grandmother is probably one who doesn't look for that approval and validation of who she is and how powerful she is.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I'd have to say my grandmother.
I love it. Okay. And for women and men listening, but definitely for ladies listening, you've kind of spoken to this piece of, we as women have to stop asking for permission to be who ourselves, to stop requesting the consent or the affirmation from others. So, why is that? How has that been important to you in your life, and how did you stop asking approval? Like how did that process begin for you?
It Because I used to get frustrated and feel as if others was obligated to support me, to celebrate me, and that's not the case. I had to, it's not. I'm not. I don't want this to come across as, it's me, me, me. But the excuse of, well, my family's not supportive of my dream and vision, and no one really is buying into it, and those are excuses that I hear all the time from women. Well, I don't have a team to do this, and I don't have a team to do that. Well, if you have to be, for my first couple of events, I had to be the chef, the event planner, the decorator, the cleanup crew, the marketer, the speaker, the trainer, the volunteer, all in one, until I was able to get um, uh, qualified individuals to support me and build that team. But
Mm-hmm.
um, it, listen, I say there's a fortune in your frustration,
Mm-hmm.
and once you turn that around, you'll see how many doors are open for you, and that's what happened for me.
Gotcha, gotcha. Okay. So you suggest for women to kind of accept the fact that they have to be everything sometimes, depending upon what stage they are in
Or
their
you
endeavor.
know what? I would say ask for help. I do
Hmm.
think that's one of the lacks. So why I was everything all the time. One, I felt like others was obligated to my success, and when I let that go, I realized, Lucinda, this is your dream. You cannot expect non-dreamers to dream with you. You cannot expect non-believers to believe with you. You can't expect people who are still trying to get their life together to help and celebrate your life, right? And so
Hmm.
when I realized that nobody's obligated to my success, I took ownership of it. And in taking ownership of it, it meant that, okay, what seats do I need to get out of? Because I was playing the role of everything, trying to be everybody. But my advice, what I highly suggest, is that one, we adapt to using the word no more often, and we also learn to start asking for help. I don't think we
Mhm.
ask for help because of pride and ego, or the last time I asked for help, or, I always get, just ask for help and just keep asking, but be clear on the kind of help you're asking for.
Gotcha, gotcha. That makes very, very good sense for people. Now, what would you say has been like some of the most meaningful lessons that you haven't already discussed, that you've learned as being an entrepreneur, being a public figure, being essentially just a force of change?
To find something that is greater than getting money, finding something to work towards that's greater than getting the money. Because as an entrepreneur, it's easy. I'll personalize it. It was easy for me to chase after the next check, the next contract, the next dollar bill, and being in that hustle mentality and that hustle zone of, more opportunities, more money, more money, more money. But when I started to connect with and work on the nonprofit side of changing, how can I change my community and my economy? That is
Mhm.
one of my greatest lessons, and that is something that opened up more doors than I can even think or imagine. So I
Mhm.
stopped chasing the money. So for me, that's one of my greatest lessons, is Lucinda. The the money opportunities are going to be there, but what
Mhm.
else are you working on that is fulfilling and game changing for the lives of others? Is this
Mm.
something just for you, or that only you can benefit from? Because some entrepreneurs are out there, I mean, working extremely hard, but it's only for them. It's not even something for their family. It's just so for, look what I did, and my book and my stuff, and it's just I. And so connecting outside of that and helping within your community, in the communities in which we live, work, and serve, you show up differently. And
Mm.
so that's one of my greatest lessons. How can I show up differently in the world if I'm not contributing to the world that I live in, besides
Mm.
taking? Hmm.
Absolutely. Okay. And then with that, what are things that people can look out for from you, where you're working on a project or you have an upcoming event, or where people can essentially not only, like you're saying, support you, but support the bigger mission that you're on?
Absolutely. So one, for, I would love for everyone to go to lucindacross.com,
Hmm.
and just connect with me there. Subscribe to my YouTube channel, which is also Lucinda Cross, just to get the activation and the motivation when you don't feel so motivated and or taking action, or you still feel stuck. But the project that I'm working on next is, I do have a series of workshops coming up, but what's most important to me is this reentry, reintegration um, symposium that I have coming up in October, on October 11th. Um, that's what I want them to stay tuned, because I want to
Okay.
support those who are reentering into society, reintegrating, and just transitioning, period, um, to be a part of this big shift.
And they can find that information at lucindacross.com.
Yes. Hmm.
Perfect. And I love that. Why did you decide to be a part of that type of an initiative?
That's that's my past,
Hmm.
from being a young girl, going to college, from college going to prison, serving time, for, it's the same thing that I was talking about earlier, chasing
Hmm.
the money, and when coming home to lack of resources and opportunities. I mean, now they have access to internet, and we didn't have any of that. It was just letters. You don't get a letter, then you just don't get no communication. So
Mm.
coming out and having limited resources, but I didn't use that as an excuse. I built my, built up going to college and getting a job, but um, I think that community is not exposed to all of these empowerment conferences that are out here. When I came home, I don't care what you told me. I wasn't paying $150 to go to a conference, to dress up and sit there and hear from speakers.
Mhm.
That I wasn't feeling comfortable enough to do that. So we're bringing this specifically for this target audience, so that they can get the same thing that I've been exposed to and I've been providing for the community for many years.
I
Yeah,
love
very
it.
proud.
All right. Yeah, I agree. I think that people have to understand that, people who are changing their lives, they have to be given resources to be able to change their lives and to be able to move forward because, people are in situations and they make a change. And we as a community, the best thing that we can do as human beings is to be kind to each other and to try to understand someone else's narrative. And I think that that sounds amazing. Is that event going to be in New York?
Yes, it's going to be in New York. Yep,
Wonderful.
we're still sourcing out a venue, hoping we get a sponsor to help us with the venue.
Mhm.
And so we're at the very beginning of the planning stages. So if anyone can, knows of a resource or interested in supporting, please, yeah, let us know.
Absolutely. LucindaCross.com, guys, listening, go and connect with her and share your thoughts with her amazing insight that's provided today. So thank you for being a sister on fire, first of all, for making sure that you are unapologetic and completely just on fire in everything that you're doing. And I salute you, sister, and I just thank you so much for being a part of the Sisters on Fire IRL series.
Thank you so much for having me.